Hello and welcome to Cobalt Retro Tech. Hope you're having an amazing day. Now this video is going to be a little bit different, specifically because I've already kind of started working on it before I started recording. As you can see here, we have a Mate desktop, Mate, Mate, Mott, whatever Linux people can never agree to pronounce things. But we have a Mate desktop in front of us right here. There's nothing super unusual about this desktop, except it's not running on my server here. It's running on the PowerMac G5. That's right, people. We have PowerPC Linux on the G5. Usually I would capture the process of getting a computer to this point, but getting this thing to boot Linux was a thing and a half. Because not only did I need to make sure that the partition table on the boot volume was Mac format, not GPT or MBR, I also don't have a functioning disk drive, and I had to go as far as to DD the boot image of Adelaide Linux to an SD card through an IDE adapter. I got some pictures along the way, so at least that's something. And I'm not even 100% sure if I can fully install it from here. I've heard Adelaide Linux can have some issues. This is release candidate 2 of 1.0, so I'm not sure if they've fixed that by now, but they may have. But yeah, we got Linux running on the G5. And that's awesome. I was able to do that with the G3, but I wasn't able to do a whole lot with that for a couple different reasons, mostly because I just wanted to run Mac OS on it, but I've got multiple hard drives in this baby. Your computer may use hardware drivers which require proprietary closed-source firmware. Yeah, that's fine with me. Okay, SD to CF adapter, that is what I'm booting off of. This is in place of a DVD drive here. Interesting. So it looks like Adelaide Linux cannot see HFS Plus partitions. I wonder if there's some kind of G-parted on here. The package manager on this version of Linux is actually different. Maybe this didn't actually work and that's not actually the... I'm actually going to go ahead and go back into macOS so I can format the partition that I want to use as FAT32, because I believe they're HFS Plus right now. Alright, apologies for the slightly odd angle here, but I'm on my wit's end and I just want this done. So, we're going to go ahead and go to SDE here. That is our... Oh, it is FAT32. What the hell is going on here? Something probably went wrong with setting up that partition, so I'm going to go ahead, nuke the partition. So what I did to get the system booting is going over to device here in Gparted, going create partition table. And it's important to note that there can't be any active partitions on the drive if you want to redo its partition table, because it won't let you. It will straight up just say, hey, this thing can't have this, this, and this. So right now, because this drive was intended for a Windows machine, it's an MS-DOS, aka master boot record. So we actually want to go up one to Mac. This is Apple partition map, I believe. This should allow us to set up this drive in a way that we can set up a FAT32 partition, a proper one this time, but also allow this system to boot from that drive. ext4 might work, actually. Yeah, Adelaide Linux is a very modern thing. But if it can support ext4, there wouldn't be any point in doing FAT32. As a matter of fact, ext4 would be better, probably. I slightly panicked there, because this drive is actually pretty old and I assume well used. So I'm just holding down Option here. And that should give us our boot picker, and then once everything loads, we should be able to load Adelaide back up. Should load it up here in a second. And we can get going. There we go. US. Load firmware. This is... Okay, so the WDC is the drive that I want to install things on. However, it's not detecting a specific file system. Oh, I guess I can go ahead and nuke the entire thing. If this nukes... Again, Apple HDD... That is the install with Mac OS X on it. And the WDC, I believe, is the 1TB drive. If it's not, that's gonna hurt, because I haven't backed up that Mac partition on that drive. But we should be good. Networking setup. Automatic. Ethernet. I don't know which one. I'll just select that one. 2. I'm not sure if the networking is actually going to properly work on this system. However, this thing does have USB, so it shouldn't be that hard to load a driver, assuming I can find one that would actually work. Networking cannot be skipped because a network connection is required to install packages. And I can't continue because it needs a network. And the really weird thing is that this is physically connected to my network. And I know I do have network access under macOS. So something is going awry. So the top 2 cards here are the cards I'm going to go ahead and remove because they have Ethernet checks. It's possible that Linux is just getting confused with so many Ethernet chips going on. You know, there's a running joke in my family that a proper project cannot be done until somebody draws blood. So far, that is holding true. I managed to get a gnarly paper cut just trying to take out the 2 other network cards on this thing. Am I getting any network activity? That's a really good question. Yep, we don't have any of the network stuff going on here, which that's disappointing. Usually, if anything about Linux is going to work, it's going to be the Ethernet. So I'm going to go ahead and actually plug in this TP-Link USB adapter. Please work. Damn it. Okay, I wanted to do Adelaide Linux, but that just wasn't working. There's various flavors of not working going on there, so I fished out a copy of Lubuntu compiled for PowerPC from the Internet Archive, and in theory that should work. Yeah, I tried every flavor of Adelaide Desktop that's currently available. I don't remember what KDE was doing, but both KDE and LXQT, I think it's called, were really not working. Let's see if I can ping the outside world. Hey, we have networking! Install third-party software and install updates if there are any available. I think, at least for the PowerPC port of Ubuntu, the security servers, I don't think they're working properly or up at all. I'm not sure what is going on there 100%, but I heard something with security updates not working, which is a little bit concerning, but it's not like I'm going to be using banking apps on this thing. It's mostly just going to be screwing around with Minecraft and other Linuxy things. Alright guys, this video is a case of exactly how frustrating Linux can be sometimes. As you can see in front of you, I have Ubuntu set up here on my Power Mac G5. You can see PowerPC 970, 4 gigs of RAM, blah blah blah. Ubuntu 14.04, technically speaking. There's a lot of things going on here that made this very frustrating to actually get up and running. First things first, I can actually do things in the terminal, of course. Let's see, SSH into my server. Just like I showed before, I can definitely remote into my server and all that. So I see my internal and external network and stuff and blah 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 with this system. Weirdly enough, only my external USB network adapter works, but it does work. But the most frustrating part about this actually pertains to the drive I'm actually booted off of right now. Right now I'm using a Kingston 120 or so gig SSD. On paper, you would think that would just work. You know, if everything's all formatted and partition tables and blah blah blah, you'd think that would just work. But no. For some reason, when that SSD is plugged in to the system through the SATA bus, nothing on the SATA bus works. Not the pre-existing OS X hard drive, not my 1 terabyte drive that I also plug in through SATA, just nothing on SATA works. And it even prevents the IDE bus from even booting as well. So it refuses to boot anything. It doesn't even see anything when that Kingston drive is connected to the SATA bus. I have zero clue as to why that does that. That does not make sense to me, but here we are with a machine that won't boot at all in any way, shape, or form if that SSD is in any way connected to the SATA bus. If I'm currently booted off of this, how is it working if it was making my system flip connected to the SATA bus? Well, I happen to have a FireWire enclosure. And yes, Macs can boot off of FireWire drives. So, by DDing an image to an SD card with Linux, I was able to boot off of the SD to IDE adapter, install Ubuntu to the FireWire drives with no other hard drives connected, and bam, we have Ubuntu. Except, if we exit out of this SSH session, here's exactly why Ubuntu 14 on PowerPC sucks. Sudo apt update. Put in the password. It looks like it's working just like it does on Intel systems. Failed to fetch blah 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 blah. It's failing to fetch PowerPC packages. So this means that you basically can't download any software, at least off of Canonical servers, if you're running a PowerPC Ubuntu system. At the end of the day, I achieved my goal of running Linux on PowerPC. This isn't the distro that I wanted to use. I wanted to use Analytics. Ubuntu does work, and although I had some total stuff to go through with this system in particular, especially since I don't have a disk drive that actually works, I managed to get it working, and I'm glad that I did. So, if you are somewhat familiar with Linux, you might also be thinking, oh hey, couldn't you just download a Debian package off of the internet? So I tried that. I tried going on to Discord's website. You know, they have a Debian package and a tar.gz package, you know, on any other Intel system, you can just download the Debian package and just install it. And it looks like it would just work here, right? You just give it a second to load everything. Error. Wrong architecture. AMD 64. So even if something is in a Debian package, the Debian package could still require a different architecture. I would imagine you would also find this if you're running on an ARM processor like a Raspberry Pi. But in my specific instance, I'm getting this error on an unusual, technically speaking, architecture, at least in regards to today's technology. This is the most awkward feeling when I have ever had on this channel because A, I got Ubuntu up and running, but I can't even I can't even update the software that's already on here. This is Firefox 55, which is quite outdated for web browsers. So I did attain my goal of getting a Linux system installed on this system, but between updates and software no longer being served from canonical servers, aside from maybe some basic packages like the genome disk utility and stuff like that, which I'm not even sure if that would still work. This is basically what Linux had felt like back in the late 90s, early 2000s, where you could still go out to the store and buy Linux. Which is, there's nothing wrong with that, but the problem nowadays is, it's already rare enough nowadays to find new PowerPC apps for macOS. So, unless you're willing to dig through the Internet Archive a bunch, or if you know somebody who already has a bunch of PowerPC packages, you're probably not going to find too much in terms of software, which is a huge bummer. And also why I really wanted to get Linux. That's why I wanted to get that other distro up and going, because that's actually a lot more updated than this version of Linux. I'm going to go ahead and snoop around on the internet, see what I can and cannot do for getting that distro up and running. But up until then, I think I'm just going to call this video here. I guess this video evolved from, hey, look, I have Linux running on this machine, and to look how useless Linux can be on a machine like this. I didn't expect this video to be so negative, I guess. I kind of expected to run into some roadblocks, but this distro is so unsupported I can't even update Firefox. I know this was not exactly the ideal ending for a video like this. If you liked it, please leave a like. If you want to see more, please subscribe. If you want to support me a little bit more directly, I have some cool music and an eBay shop linked in the description below, and a Patreon page which starts at $1 a month. Speaking of which, I do have to thank my Kilo supporter, India Matt, for helping make Cobalt Retro Tech possible. Thank you. Hopefully in the next video I have pertaining to PowerPC Linux will be a bit more positive. Until then, I'll see you in the next one.